following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Indeed, the gang is all here this weekend. Matt and I in studio, producer John on CRN Live on YouTube, as usual. In this particular episode, we're going to be talking about a big upcoming late model race that just got announced. It's got Matt very excited, and we'll get into the details of it here in a little bit. We got more on the lawsuits and challenges in NASCAR. They just keep seeming to pile up. Good grief. IHRA continues to build themselves up. Ron Capps found himself a young top fuel driver. We'll talk about that person. We got Formula E's future looking a little bit brighter as they get ready for Gen 4. You remember us talking about the possible return of V10 engines to Formula One? We've got an update on that. A couple of notable passings from the NASCAR world. And, well, it's kind of like just the tip of the iceberg for those of you that know what took the Titanic down. That's coming up next on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Four tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome in. Appreciate you joining us here. April 12th edition. It's hard to believe we're already pretty much halfway through the month of April.
Yeah.
How the heck did that happen? But then again, I've been asking that question all year long. This year just seems to be flying by.
It is true.
A couple of weeks from now, we're going to be over at Talladega Superspeedway. Going to warn you right now, we like to go year-round here on the show, but we have been known to take a week off here or there, usually Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, or if, as it happened a couple of years ago, we happen to have Christmas and New Year's fall on the weekends, and we just said, you know what, we're going to take those weeks off because we're going to spend it with our family. Well, as it turns out, we got Speed Weeks here in Alabama coming up because we got NASCAR coming to Talladega, and then we've got IndyCar coming to Barber. And guess who's scheduled to be up in the PA booth for both of those weekends? So we're going to be taking those 2 weeks off just because scheduling does not allow us to do the show and allow me to do PA at the same time. So we've got 2 weeks off coming up because of Alabama Speed Weeks. It's almost like our own little holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But don't worry, we'll be back right after that. In the meantime, plenty to get to this week here, and one is a rumor that has started to pop up just this morning that Matt noted. We'll talk about it, too. Don't worry, we'll get to it. I'll let you.
I'm going to look square in this camera for YouTube Live. It's gaining more steam, and more, and more, and more, and whoever came up with this idea, needs to
not
have their needs to have a cognitive test done.
Oh, Joe Biden did it. Okay. Let's look at other things first, though. It took almost 100 races, but Brandon Jones finally remembered how to get to victory lane. Congratulations. 28-year-old able to grab the lead on the final restart with 12 laps to go, held off 2020 Cup champion and Moonlighter Chase Elliott to win and break his own winless streak that dates back 98 races, all the way back to 2022, April 8th, 2022 to be exact, at Martinsville. Jones over Elliott, and then Justin Allgaier third. Your Moonlighter Ross Chastain was fourth. Carson Kvapil fifth. Connor Zilic, Christian Eckes, Nick Sanchez, Sammy Smith, Sheldon Creed fill out the top 10. Justin Allgaier and Austin Hill have 2 wins now. Single wins by Jesse Love, Connor Zilic, and Brandon Jones have them all in the playoffs at this time. In on points, Sam Mayer, Sheldon Creed, Carson Kvapil, Ryan Sieg, Harrison Burton, Sam Smith, and Jeb Burton. Jeb Burton's got a 3-point lead over Daniel Dye for that final playoff spot. Then we turn to last Sunday morning, where Red Bull and their sister organization, now called Racing Bulls, have largely been, someone looking like playing darts in the dark. There is one ray of light, and of course that's 4-time champion Max Verstappen. He claimed his 3rd straight win in the Japanese Grand Prix, his first win of 2025. Verstappen had the pole, got a good jump at the start, held off the McLaren twins, led just about all the laps, grabbed the win, besting Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to the line by 1.5 and 2.1 seconds, respectively. So, in Formula One terms, it was a close race. Charles Leclerc, George Russell filled out the top 5. Remainder of the top 10, Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, Isaac Hadjar scoring his first points of his F1 career. He finished 8th. Alex Albon, Ollie Behrman fill out the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull debut, he finished 11th out of the points. Driver he replaced, Liam Lawson, could do no better than 17th. You and I talked about this a little bit on the Cross Flags podcast, available now on CRN Live on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
We're still not sure whether this is driver or car situation. That's why I said the one bright spot for Red Bull / Racing Bulls appears to be Max Verstappen, although it was a nice run for Isaac Hadjar.
Give it 3 more races, and we're going to know if it's car or driver.
All right. We'll find out. Lando Norris leads in the points, but it's a very slim 1-point lead over Max Verstappen in the driver's standing, 62-61. Oscar Piastri's racked up 49 points so far. George Russell with 45, 30 for Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc holds 20, 10 for Alex Albon. Lewis Hamilton's got 15. Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll are tied with 10 each. In the Constructors' Cup standings, it is McLaren pretty much all the way. 111 to 75-point lead over Mercedes. Red Bull is 3rd with 61. Again, this is a situation where Max Verstappen is effectively pulling all the weight. Ferrari's got 35, 19 for Williams. Haas F1's got 15, 10 for Aston Martin. You got Racing Bulls now with 7. Sauber's got 6. Alpine remains scoreless with 0. That brings us to Sunday afternoon last week, where as the race wound down, it kind of appeared like Ryan Blaney had things under control, but then you got a late race caution for Bubba Wallace getting into Kyle Larson. We'll get back into that in a minute. That prompted the field to have to hit pit road under yellow for fresh Goodyears. Quick pit crew helped Denny Hamlin grab the lead. He wouldn't let it go. Hamlin bests William Byron to the line to get his second win in a row. Christopher Bell third, Tyler Reddick fourth, Ryan Blaney falls to fifth. Is this a situation where the other pit crews were just that good, or was something up in the 12 pit stall?
I think they were just that good. Everybody's stepping up, getting on the same level.
Yep, everybody stepped up at the right time. Chris Buescher was sixth, followed by Ross Chastain, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, making up your top 10. Christopher Bell, 3 wins, leads the way. Hamlin's now got 2, going for 3 in a row this weekend at a track he's pretty good at. Single wins by William Byron, Kyle Larson, Josh Berry, them all in the playoffs at this time. Those who were in on points, this long list starts with Chase Elliott, and then it goes to Tyler Reddick and Ryan Blaney. There's Bubba Wallace with Joey Logano trailing him, Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Ryan Preece, Chase Briscoe, and Kyle Busch are all in the side in there in the playoffs at this time. Kyle Busch, not comfortable by any stretch. A 9-point lead over AJ Allmendinger and 10 points on Michael McDowell means that could disappear in a heartbeat, especially at a place that is as chaotic as Bristol can be.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, this weekend's racing actually got going last night at Bristol Motor Speedway. Craftsman Truck Series running the Weather Guard truck race. Matt, kind of give us a rundown of how that rolled out.
Well,
You seem impressed.
The 3 only high points of the race, honestly, that I saw. And one really wasn't a high point. One was a low point because you had one backmarker truck, better known as Norm Benning, that apparently had a radio problem and couldn't hear nothing and caused the major pileup.
That's never good.
Second point, well, really another low point, is this broadcast booth for Fox has got to change for the truck series, because there's no enthusiasm. And God love her. God love her. She's excellent on pit road, but in a booth, Jamie Little's clueless. Joey Logano pulled the weight of the booth, in my opinion, last night.
Wow. Okay.
Joey Logano pulled the weight of the booth. And Chandler Smith outran Kyle Larson to get the win.
Okay. So Kyle Larson's a second attempt in 3 weeks at trying to do a triple play out the window. So here are your standings after it's all said and done. Corey Heim, easy for me to say. Corey Heim has your 2 wins to lead the way. Chandler Smith, Daniel Hemrick have a win each, so they're locked into the playoffs at this time. In on points, Ty Majeski, Tyler Ankrum, Lane Riggs, Grant Enfinger, Stuart Friesen, Ben Rhodes. Then there's Jake Garcia. Jake Garcia's got a 5-point lead over Caden Honeycutt. After that, you start to get some separation because it's 19 points between Caden Honeycutt for 11th and Tanner Gray in 12th. So We're starting to see a little bit of a separation there.
Yep.
Whether that'll continue or not, I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what happens for the rest of this weekend. Well, today, it actually begins down in South Florida. Formula E is back in action for the first time in 2 months. Got the Miami E-Prix using a road course that is inside Homestead Miami Speedway. If you're unfamiliar with it, it is 11 turns, 2.2 miles long. This race will start at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central Time. Good luck finding it on television. CBS Sports, which purportedly has the rights to the series here in the U.S., according to what I can find, or more specifically can't, isn't airing it live, despite the fact that it is actually racing here in the United States at this time. I didn't find it on CBS. I didn't find it on the CBS Sports Network. Maybe you'll be able to find it on the Roku channel if you have that.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, I talk about NASCAR being ticked off at their treatment when it comes to how Fox Sports is treating them. Whew. Oh, Formula E, I would be hopping mad. Xfinity Series gets things rolling at Bristol then. The SciAps 300 for the, again, Xfinity Series. It'll air on the CW and PRN radio. Bless you. Beginning at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. Sunday will prove to be busy as well. Formula One kicking things off with the Gulf Air Bahrain Grand Prix, 15-turn, 3.1-mile-long Bahrain International Circuit. That'll air on ESPN starting 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central Time. Cup Series then gets rolling at Bristol with the Food City 500 on Fox Sports 1 and PRN Radio. That's 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. Indycar running the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach on the street course made up of 11 turns over 1.97 miles. This will air on Fox and IRN Radio at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Yes, it seems late, but again, they're running in Long Beach, California, so it's not late there.
Yeah.
And then finally, the NHRA, on television anyway, wraps up the busy weekend with the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This will air on Fox Sports 1 either after the Cup Series race or at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Central Time. Again, this is on a delayed basis. I think they get things started on the track about noon, maybe 11 a.m. Local time.
Oh, yeah, probably.
So again, yeah, on a delayed basis. Basically, what that means is that every single race series that we cover here on a regular basis is or was in action this weekend, considering Truck Series ran last night.
Yep.
So there you go. Busy weekend of racing. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to take an early break here since John is listening online. I'm going to go ahead and take this early break here because when we come back, we're going to lead off with a series that we generally don't lead off a whole lot with, and that's the Craftsman Truck Series. But considering the loss that happened this week, this seems very appropriate that we spend some time talking about this man and his accomplishments and what he was able to kind of overcome and deal with over the course of his life and the tragic way that he lost it. And then, of course, we'll get into some regular things. 2 lawsuits and a trademark challenge. We've got updates on all of that related to the Cup Series. And we got plenty more to go. I mean, heck, we're just underway right here on this weekend's edition of the Championship Racing Network. Thank you for joining us. We shall return in a moment.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. tires only, and back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Indeed, thank you very much for joining us here. 95.1 The Mountain in East Central Alabama. And, of course, everybody that's on CRN Live on YouTube, we appreciate it. Getting new people all the time. Joshua, welcome in. We appreciate you joining us this week. Unfortunately, we start off with some sad news. We first mentioned this passing on Crossed Flags, which is, like I said, available now. We recorded it on Tuesday. I said we would dive into it a little bit further because I didn't feel like we were considering the timing situation of when we found out and when we started doing the podcast. I really didn't feel like I had enough time to get the information that I wanted. So I promised we'd look back at the life of the late Shigeki Hattori here this weekend on the big show. Hattori, born November 3rd, 1963 in Okayama, Japan, got into karting at a young age and then began to work his way up the F1 feeder ladder. He actually won the 1994 Formula Toyota title. But instead of trying to work his way to the top of the F1 ladder, realizing kind of what we are realizing nowadays, that there are very, very few seats and a whole lot of people trying to get those very few seats, he decided to bet on himself. He moved to the United States, started searching for rides. He would get rides on and off throughout that first year, 1995. It led to him a full-time ride in what is now Indy Next. Then it was Indy Lights. He'd finished that first year with 6 top 10s, claimed 13th in the final standings. Changing teams in 1997 really didn't help. He claimed only 1 top 10, dipped down to 25th in the standings. 1998, yet another new team in Indy Lights. It started off promising, got his win in the season opener, would claim another win at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway, but with only 2 other top 10 finishes, the best he could do at the end of the season in final points was 14th. Well, Bettenhausen Racing was impressed enough, they brought him up to the kart series. This is back when kart and IRL were split. Remember that? Ask your parents, kids. 1999 was that year, but in a part-time role, he never really got the feel for the car, only claimed 2 top 20 results. So he switched to the competing IndyCar series in 2000, and in 4 years, raced part-time for the most part, 4 different teams. The only full-time effort was with a team called Vertex Cunningham in 2001. He never did win, but he did claim a dozen top 10s, no top 5s. 3 Indy 500 efforts. He didn't qualify in 2001, and the next 2 years claimed 20th and 30th. So that's when he decided to switch and flipped over to NASCAR in 2004, entered his own truck into the season finale, but didn't qualify for that race. Then he signed on with Jermaine Arnold Racing in 2005, and in 12 races, while he didn't qualify for 2, had a best finish of 24th at Kentucky, his second to last race for the team. So Shigeki, or Shiggy as known in the garage area, began to look for a driver who might be able to take him to further heights, thinking ownership might be the better way to go. In 2008, he fielded entries in both the ARCA Menard Series and in NASCAR, Craftsman Truck Series. I guess then it was different. Was it Craftsman at that point? I think it was Craftsman until what, 2009?
No, Camping World.
I thought Camping World took over in 2009, but I could be wrong.
Camping World, Gander Outdoors, back to Camping World, and back to Craftsman.
Yeah. Wild, isn't it? Anyway, so into the truck series in 2008 under his Hattori Racing Enterprises banner. Never really competed for wins or even top 10 results for the first few years, but in 2013, he started to open some eyes. He brought in a guy by the name of Brett Moffitt. Brett Moffitt claimed a 17th place finish in Michigan. And then in 2014, running drivers like Ross Chastain and Ross Kenseth tried his hand at what's now the Busch Series. I should say what was then the Busch Series, now the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series. But it wasn't until his pairing with driver Ryan Truex in 2016 got a second place finish at the season opening race at Daytona. Sponsorship issues, though, kept him from being able to race the full season. They did run the full 2017 season together, but they parted ways at the end of what turned out to be a disappointing season, and that's when he turned back to old friend Brett Moffitt. They still dealt with some sponsorship issues in 2018, but the single truck team jumped up, claimed an unlikely title. But again, the sponsorship issues led to Moffitt leaving again. Then you got a guy who you probably have heard of again. Austin Hill joins in 2018, and with Hill, the team would rack up 8 more wins over the next 3 seasons. That's when Hill left to join Richard Childress Racing in Xfinity. Hill's wins being the last for the team, leaving the team with 1 championship and 14 Truck Series wins to its credit. Hattori Racing Enterprises does continue, even though they haven't really tried for a race this year, haven't qualified for a race this year. They ran 4 races with 3 different drivers last year, the last full-time year for Hattori Racing. 2022 when they were running a 2-truck team with Tyler Ankrum and Chase Purdy. Police reports, however, state that last Saturday morning, Hattori was driving his Toyota Crown automobile on North Carolina Highway 73 near Huntersville when his car crossed the center line into oncoming traffic, colliding head-on with another vehicle. Hattori was pronounced dead at the scene. Why Hattori crossed the center line is still being investigated by local authorities. If they have determined it, they have not announced it yet. Shigeki Hattori, 61 years old. Very, very young when you stop and think about it. I don't know what his plans were, truth be told. Again, he was not able to qualify for a race this year. I know for a fact he was back to part-time status for this year at least. It was
part-time last year, too.
Yeah, so I don't know what his ultimate plans were.
I think they ran Daytona with Johnny Sauter this year, if I'm not mistaken.
I didn't see where they had qualified for that, but I
think they did.
Still, I mean, you stop and think about it. This is one of those situations where you're sad to see it because, I mean, you want to talk about a guy who really was fighting that uphill battle.
Johnny Sauter was with Thorsport.
Okay. He was really fighting that uphill battle, and he did it well. I mean, you think about it. That's that, little engine that could story where you jump up and not only do you surprise a few people in the 20 teens, you were able to actually claim with Brett Moffitt a championship in 2018. A really, really great story, and it's sad to see him go this early, and especially like that.
I know they tried Wilkesboro last year with Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to say they did try a race this year. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I couldn't
find it. I couldn't find it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if you happen to see anything, and
that's what I'm browsing results right here to see.
Okay. There is some better news out of the truck series, though, here in that Rayom Brothers Racing has announced that they have signed a guy by the name of Morgan Baird. He's going to run several races for them throughout the remainder of the year. He's going to pilot their number 22 Ford F-Series pickup for the team for the first time at Kansas Speedway in May, and then at Michigan with more races to be announced. Michigan is one of the reasons why, you might say Michigan seems like an odd choice. One of the reasons why for that, his sponsor for at least those two races is Michigan-based company Alro Steel. They may rejoin him for more, but again, they say several races, so I'm led to believe that we will find out more races here in the near future for him. This is a situation where Rayom Brothers, they've got like Frankie Muniz and stuff like that. A second truck certainly would help them in trying to get a little bit more data out there to see if they can't.
They run 3 full-time trucks.
Yeah. So,
just
but the more data you can put out there, the better off.
2 of them are split seats, though.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard last night Frankie Muniz couldn't get inside the top 30 at Bristol. So,
Well, quite honestly, I didn't expect any more. Here's why. It's not knocking Muniz, but going into a place sight unseen, practice and qualifying gets rained out, and hey, good luck. First lap's going to be the race.
Yeah, exactly.
He's still learning how to give correct feedback on a truck.
Oh yeah, and you and I have talked about this. We talked about this last year, especially when it came to AM Racing and their situation with Haley Deegan. Communication with the driver, proper communication, spotter, crew chief, and everybody else. That's all important because we realized after they let her go and they put Joey Logano into the car, we realized real quick it wasn't the driver and Haley Deegan, it was the car.
And then some.
So we'll see. Let's go back and talk about last Sunday, that late race caution that ended up with Denny Hamlin inheriting the lead due to good work by his pit crew, relegating the leader before the caution. Ryan Blaney mired back in the pack, so to speak. He finished 5th. It was all caused when 2311 driver Bubba Wallace got into Hendrick Motorsports driver Kyle Larson, spinning him out, and you're sitting here thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Kyle Larson? Isn't he usually good there? Yeah, well, got to look at the whole situation, actually. Take a look from, say, 30,000 feet, and you'll see a different picture than what you got initially. A lot of people want to simply lay blame at Bubba Wallace for trying to help out his boss, 2311 Racing. Hamlin claimed the win. You might want to begin cooking that crow to make it a little more tasty. Go back to when Blaney made the pass for the lead on the other 2311 driver, Tyler Reddick. As Blaney made the pass going into turns 1 and 2, Reddick slid up the track, actually got a bit of a Darlington stripe at the exit of turn 2, and this started kind of a chain reaction. Because Larson, who had just gotten around Wallace himself, we'll tell you why in a moment, saw Reddick hit the wall, and being as many laps down as he was, he just tried to stay out of things, so he checked up and started trying to work his way around Reddick. It was a move that caught Wallace by surprise. He couldn't react in time and got into the back of the 5 car and sent Larson into the inside wall. Wallace got on the team radio and said in edited form, "Brother, that was not that big of a bleep checkup. Ugh, I didn't want that." The reaction on the radio came back, "Dude just panicked." So you might ask, if Larson was that many laps down, why was Larson passing the 1 lap down Wallace and trying to catch up to Reddick? Well, it's simple. He was just that much faster, because if you're down that many laps, and Matt, you know this just as well as I do, you're kind of on your own schedule. Whenever you feel like coming in for tires, you come in for tires.
Yeah, because he wasn't going to gain and he wasn't going to lose.
And at a place like Darlington, we have noted, both being there and on television, and anybody who's watched a race at Darlington, whether in person or on TV, knows this, fresh tires versus old tires, you're a rocket ship. By sometimes 2.5 seconds per lap. So it doesn't really matter what kind of damage you got on the car.
Yeah.
So he went screaming around that. So that's that situation. But again, the team was out there just trying to keep up on pit stops, practice crash mitigation, because, again, they were behind pit wall for, what, 170-ish?
160 laps.
Okay. You know, this is that new damaged vehicle policy that allows you to take the car behind pit wall, get repairs done, and come back out. You know, like it used to be.
Right.
And that's exactly what they did. So they were practicing all that kind of stuff. And since Larson, again, wasn't worried about pitting with the field, that fresh set of tires, he was just much faster. Data shows that Larson, after seeing Reddick hit the wall coming out of turn 2, checked up, slowed down about 20 miles per hour like that, catching Wallace unaware. And let's face it, if you've been on the interstate and you happen to notice a police car in the median and you look in front of you and that person slams on the brakes because, I don't know, guilty conscience, whatever it is, you know exactly what I mean. That's what happened in that situation. So, yeah, Wallace did get into Larson, but he's not the only one to blame here. It's just that way.
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't Larson's fault, or it wasn't Wallace's fault.
Yeah.
It was the one, I can't remember, the one that was up in front of him that got in the wall. Larson checked up. Reddick. Larson checked up, and then just it was one of them.
Yeah, chain reaction, holy.
You know what deal.
Everything happens before you really have a chance to react. This ought to be interesting, because I have a lot of respect for Catherine Legg, but she might be in over her head when it comes to the Cup Series, but she ain't done NASCAR racing, it appears, this year. Her sponsor, ELF Cosmetics, which stands for Eyes, Lips, and Face, if I remember right, Cosmetics. They've agreed to back her for several more starts this year, both the Cup and the Xfinity Series. Her Cup Series schedule appears to be mostly centered around the upcoming race in Mexico City. So a road course, in effect, which really does kind of suit her strengths, at least when it comes to her prior experience, IndyCar and sports cars. And from there, any further Cup races would be announced later. In addition, she'll get 7 Xfinity Series starts. The first actually comes next weekend when the Truck and Xfinity Series return NASCAR to Rockingham Speedway. That's an interesting choice, considering nobody has really had a whole heck of a lot of time on Rockingham, and she is, I'll just put it bluntly, a rank novice when it comes to NASCAR racing. She's barely got more experience than I do.
I've got more experience on Rockingham Speedway on iRacing than she does in a car. I think the theme for this edition of today's show will be the words, "What are we thinking? What are we doing?"
Yeah. Oh, We'll get back to it. Don't worry.
You're getting. Let me get this straight. You're getting into a car that missed the race at Darlington, that's coming back to a track that they haven't raced at since 2004. 21 years.
Yep.
What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, this is going to be
knockout qualifying at its finest.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's not a fact of I don't technically place the blame on her for this race.
No.
What are you doing, Jordan Anderson? What are you doing?
Yeah. Is this...
You know better.
Is this something that her sponsor requested? Rockingham?
I seriously doubt somebody saw a company that is in cosmetics go, oh, let's go to that track right there.
I mean, it is. I'll admit, this is a high-profile track. This is NASCAR's return, as you noted, in the Xfinity Series in 21 years. And the Truck Series hadn't been there in over a decade. So I get it. It's a high-profile race. That's the only reason I ask. Is this something that maybe her sponsor said, we know this is going to be a high-profile race, let's get in it?
50-50 on that one.
And that's just me throwing something up against the wall to see if it sticks.
I would hinge my bets more because we know, every one of us know, that specific team puts very respectable super speedway cars on the grounds.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I do.
I would rather hinge my bets for her to attempt the race at Talladega versus Rockingham.
Okay. The only other race that we know in the Xfinity Series after Rockingham is going to be 2 weeks later at Charlotte.
Charlotte, day race, slip and slide. If that car's not wrinkled up by lap 10, I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
No disrespect to her, but why are we putting her in position? She's a respected driver,
yeah,
because of the different facets that she's attempted to race all across the board.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are we putting her in positions with these stock cars? Insert Harry Hog line here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is kind of strange to stop and think about the fact that, as we mentioned here, we're just a couple of weeks away from Talladega, and Talladega is not on the docket.
Because Jordan's going to get in the car there. We know Jordan's going to get in the car.
You can't tell me that he couldn't find a car to put that wrap on and put her in it at Talladega. You can't tell me that.
I would, if I was Jordan, I would form an alliance with somebody to put her in that car versus putting her on the track at Rockingham and Charlotte.
Yeah.
To where she is going to be stupid green at Charlotte and everybody's going to be green at Rockingham.
Yeah, exactly. Because there might be a couple of Truck Series drivers who have been in this long enough to remember having raced at Rockingham.
Johnny Stoddard and Matt Crafton's going to be the only ones in the whole entire field that would have even touched Rockingham in the last race.
But even since they last raced on it, it's changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a repave. Everybody's green.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Oh, we're going to test her in January, do a tire test.
That doesn't tell you that much.
That ain't going to tell you nothing.
No, that ain't going to tell you that
January
much.
to April, it ain't going to tell you nothing.
No, I agree. Two other tracks have announced entitlement sponsorship news. Sonoma Raceway extended their partnership with Save Mart stores. They will continue as a co-title sponsor of the Toyota Save Mart 350 Cup Series race. And Cracker Barrel's coming back to NASCAR. It's been a while. Nashville Super Speedway has announced a new partnership with Cracker Barrel Old Country Store to become the title sponsor of what is now going to be known as the Cracker Barrel 400. So there you go. Congratulations to the two of them.
Golden Corral, you're next.
I can't remember the last time we saw Cracker Barrel in NASCAR. I know it has been there, but
2000.
Was it, 25 years ago?
2000 in Atlanta.
All right. Well, there you go. Golden Corral, you're next, Ellen. I see their ads during the racing, but they just apparently decide not to do any sponsorship.
Good old Golden Corral 500 in Atlanta.
Indeed. All right, let's go ahead and take this time and let's start talking about the legal situations that are going on in NASCAR. We'll break it up with a break here in a moment. Let's start off with the one that we mentioned last weekend on the show. Legacy Motor Club taking on Rick Ware Racing. This lawsuit has taken another step in that there was a restraining order granted. And you think to yourself, how are you filing a restraining order in this situation? It's not one of those things where they can't be within 50 feet of each other. This restraining order ensures that Rick Ware Racing cannot sell, lease, or take any other action regarding the charter in question for at least 10 days from the orders in action, or until the two sides come to terms on the sale. We talked about this last week on the show, and I said it flat out. If I'm the judge in this case, I'm taking Legacy's attorneys, and I'm taking Rick Ware's attorneys, and I'm saying, you guys grab your clients, go into my chambers, and work this thing out. Because in the end, again, this is all about semantics.
Yeah.
All this is that Rick Ware Racing contends that the charter sale is going to happen. They thought in 2027. Legacy feels like it should be in place for 2026. That's it. That's the whole basis of this lawsuit. The court order made public reads this, quote, "This order is entered with the consent of the defendant, Rick Ware Racing LLC, and without prejudice to its right to oppose and contest each plaintiff's allegations, claims, or requests, blah, blah, blah." Rick Ware Racing, easy for me to say, said, "We agreed to the TRO. It serves as a calming measure by letting Legacy know that RWR has no intention of transacting while we vindicate our legal rights in court." Basically, what I'm hearing here is that Rick Ware Racing is more than willing to sell this charter. They're just trying to figure out the timeline. That's the only argument that these two sides have, is the timeline of the sale.
Yeah, and the number has been already thrown out by multiple people of...
We'll give it to you here in just a second.
How much, which is stupid.
I know. Again, if you missed this, Legacy filed suit, says Rick Ware Racing was attempting to back out of their agreement to sell Legacy the charter. Rick Ware says it's just a misunderstanding. It's all, again, about the timeline. Legacy would like to have it in 2026. Rick Ware said the initial agreement was for 2027. Get this. What was the highest price we had heard beforehand?
That'd be $40 million.
Reports have the sale price now at $45 million.
I understood 50.
I have heard 45.
I understood 50.
All right. And the only reason I say 45, I heard that on the Dale Jr. download.
I heard 50 on that one too.
So they bumped it up. All right. Now, I get this. Okay. We are at a point now where the Stewart-Haas Racing breakup, where 3 charters came into effect, was obviously an anomaly. And you and I talked about this after the fact. If a team, and I think we even mentioned it at the time, if a team like Legacy wants to expand out to 3 cars, which now they obviously do, wanted to get a charter, where are they going to get it? And I think we really kind of centered in on teams like this. And we began to wonder exactly how much this was going to begin to cost because, again, the charter that Spire got from Live Fast, that was the $40 million one, right? Mm-hmm. We heard that the 3 charters from Stewart-Haas went for 20 to 25 million a pop.
20, 25 million a pop, yeah.
And now all of a sudden, because, again, law of supply and demand, welcome to capitalism, you don't have a whole lot of teams that are willing to sell all of a sudden. The price has gone up. And if you're willing to meet it, great. And apparently Legacy is willing to meet the $45 million price tag.
Yeah, well, those new partners that Jim Johnson's got.
Yeah, and, congratulations. That means to me that we're not really going to see this. Somebody, sooner or later, is bound to be calling up Gene Haas and going, hey, listen, you want to give up that last charter? 50 million, 60 million, 75 million? Mm-hmm. Single car teams and 2 car teams going the way of the dodo bird, ladies and gentlemen. But where are you getting the charter?
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. We appreciate you joining us. We'll get to the legal challenge coming up here in a minute. Let's talk about the other lawsuit within the world of NASCAR, which actually directly involves NASCAR. It's between NASCAR on one side and 2311 and Front Row on the other. Not a whole lot going on here. NASCAR has filed again to have it dismissed. I don't think that's going to happen. And 2311 and Front Row have now combined in the efforts to ask the court for some information in the discovery process of this lawsuit. They're seeking financial information from Liberty Media.
Dun, 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 dun.
Liberty Media, if you are unfamiliar with that name, is the commercial rights holders of Formula One. They've held those commercial rights since January 1 of 2016, which just happens to be the same date that the first charter agreement within NASCAR took effect. Court documents state the information the two teams want includes the percentage and types of revenue shared with or amongst the league and the teams. This is big. We've talked about the prize payout at the end of the year. They're asking for the formula for splitting each category of revenue amongst the teams in the league, the amounts of revenue shared with or restrained by the league and the teams. And the documents also show documents that show the valuations of the expansion or the current teams, meaning they not only want to know about the 10 teams that are currently on the starting grid and racing, for example, tomorrow in Bahrain, they'd like to know about Cadillac coming in next year as well. They also would like to know the league constitution, its bylaws, and anything regarding a collective bargaining agreement. No word from the court yet on whether any of this or all of this will be granted.
Yeah.
Then some more sad news here when Hendrick Motorsports announced the loss of one of their own on Thursday, the passing of their director of racing communications, John Edwards. John Edwards, the team statement said, quote, was a consummate professional whose remarkable gift for building strong and lasting relationships made him a respected figure in our sport. In his time with the team, he was the public relations representative for Jeff Gordon. Then after Gordon retired from racing, worked with other drivers in his most recent assignment, being primarily for Kyle Larson. John Edwards was born in 1972, so he was only just past his 50th birthday. The cause of death not immediately announced. Rest in peace to John Edwards. Our thoughts and our prayers go out to his family, his friends, and everyone at Hendrick Motorsports. I did not, I have to admit, have the chance to meet him, but everybody that I know
a few times.
Everybody that I know of that did have the chance to meet him said he was just the most down-to-earth, easygoing guy and just a great guy to be around, had a great infectious attitude.
Yeah, the few times that I have, you absolutely cannot get any better of a human.
Yeah.
Let's word it that way.
Yeah.
He was an instrumental part back in the mid-90s. I can remember because I do remember his face well, even though the much younger version, but I do remember. He, back in 1992, when Chad Knaus worked with Stanley Smith out of Chelsea, and Dad was on the team as well. It was 1993 or 1994, one of those years. May have been 95. Then Talladega, we were in the pit area back when things were much, much, much more simpler, and you were actually able to maneuver around and not have any problems. We got linked up with Chad before the race, and John was a big figure in helping be able to get Jeff over there to talk with us as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, Chad said, hey, I remember Chad said, hey, John, where's Jeff at? I've got a couple of kids he wanted to meet. And John said, give me a couple minutes, I'll go get him. And John said, he was like, yeah, let me go get him. Yeah. And that was one of the first encounters I had with him. And I could remember just easy going, nice human being. And especially when it comes to people like kids, he was all over it. All over it.
Yeah.
All over it.
Sad to hear about it.
Yep.
All right, let's deal with this because this popped out this morning. Rumors starting to float around the garage area, so to speak, over at Bristol regarding what they're going to do with a specific track. Our 15 current watching viewers on YouTube Live this morning, because I can see they're watching now. Sure.
Be glad that right here to my right, which would be your left, that I don't have a concrete cinder block wall that I can turn around and beat my skull through. Because whomever has this confounded idea of taking a popular, I'm going to start with this right here, a very popular 1.5-mile track that puts on the best 1.5-mile racing right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Right now. And making it another version of Atlanta. Want to take a guess which one we're talking about, kids? And it's gaining steam. First I saw of it was from somebody that has I call them the burner accounts, but their mechanics are buried within the sport somehow.
Yeah.
And more times than none, people will look at you and say, what are they talking about? Those ones that have those burner accounts with those crazy names on it that say these rumors, and they come to light, you've got to go, maybe that holds water. Some of those hold way more water than some media people that we know are real life have.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there are certain people that we have just thoroughly discounted as far as quote unquote sources, because They're just out there looking for clicks.
They are looking for clicks. But when you see this and you start to see some of the very few, and I use that few in capital letters, saying, yes, this holds water and we hope it isn't legitimate, because the good Lord above knows that we do not need to turn another mile and a half into a super speedway form of racing.
No.
And ladies and gentlemen, that mile and a half being none other than Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, this is a very popular track under its current guise in all three, well, really all four, if you want to go down to the ARCA Menard series divisions of NASCAR. They all love this. I haven't heard a driver yet complain about Kansas Speedway. At worst, if you need to repave it, just repave it. At worst. But leave it in its current configuration.
It doesn't
banking everything.
It doesn't
leave
even need a repave.
And that was the other thing that kind of threw me off, that they're even thinking about this, because the last couple of times that I have seen Kansas, it looked like it was holding up just fine. And again, the racing is good and the drivers love it.
It's good.
Why are you messing? This goes back to that classic phrase that Matt and I love to use here, and really use it more specifically against NASCAR than any other series that we talk about. Stop trying to fix stuff that isn't broken.
It's not broke. What it is because you got SMI, you got and I'm still going to call it this, I don't care. You got SMI and ISC.
Sure, yeah. Even though it's folded into NASCAR, it's the easiest way to separate it.
You got SMI and ISC. What it seems like to me is now we've got a couple of solid years under the belt at Atlanta with some, in my opinion, some extremely good finishes that are not somewhat as you could perceive to be as manufactured, because here's why I use the word manufactured, because it should not, and it shouldn't, it shouldn't be even in the thought of a realm of possibility that one solo car at Talladega can run a faster lap time than 39 others in a pack running 3 wide because they're running half throttle to try to save fuel. That should not happen.
Oh, it should.
Atlanta, you can't do that. So, there have been, with the exception of somebody having a hair trigger caution back in February, that would have been 3 consecutive 3 wide down to the line, bending the firewall through the floorboard finishes.
I agree. And yeah, you and I have both said this. We're both fans of the racing at Atlanta. But that doesn't mean that we're not fans of racing at Kansas.
Kansas has its own flair. Let's word it that way.
And it should.
And it rightfully should.
You know, that's the situation. Let's throw out Daytona and Talladega, which are considered sister tracks. But the truth of the matter is that there's actually quite a bit of difference between the two.
Huge.
Daytona's much narrower than Talladega. Talladega is much wider than Daytona all the way around.
Yeah, 15, 20 feet.
And also notable is that they put kind of a personality into turns 3 and 4 at Daytona by making it a little bit on the tighter side.
It's got a different apex for sure.
Than even their own 1 and 2. There's much more of a difference between Daytona and Talladega than most people realize, other than just 2.5 miles for Daytona and 2.66 for Talladega. Yeah. There's actually a lot of difference between those two tracks.
Massive.
And that makes them both very, very attractive for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to go copying something like Atlanta. If you go copying Atlanta, suddenly the uniqueness of Atlanta is gone.
The lore of Atlanta's gone.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what it seems like and the way this seems to be painting itself, and I'm not standing here with a fro and a button down, halfway unbuttoned down denim shirt going, I'm painting a happy little tree over here in the middle of Kansas City, Kansas. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Seems to me somebody got in their corner, threw a temper tantrum and go, oh, SMI's got this right here and we don't have that. How are we going to get one? Mommy, I want one too. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
So we're going to apparently, I'm going to use the word apparently right now. We're going to apparently take one of your last 2 mile-and-a-halves, true mile-and-a-halves that you have, ISC. Because the only last 2 true mile-and-a-halves you legitimately have right now is Kansas and Homestead. SMI's got all the other ones.
Yeah. And here's the fun part about Kansas and Homestead, even though they're both mile-and-a-halves, they're totally different from each other. And I like that.
Homestead has its own identity. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Let these tracks, and this goes to something else that directly affects Matt and I, let these tracks have their own personality.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to destroy one of our last 2 mile-and-a-halves and make it in the form of another super speedway? Why are we going to possibly have 8 super speedway style events when you only need 4?
Yeah. And here's the thing that you and I have kind of talked about a little bit. In the fact that now that we're getting to the point where this new surface at Atlanta has some age on it.
And it's spacing itself out.
Yeah.
Little by little, it's spacing itself out, giving itself that identity back.
Yeah. Which, to me, makes me wonder if the fine head honchos at NASCAR might consider looking at taking those super speedway rules away from Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, it is those rules that are giving us the finishes that we're getting. So, you know, I have a hard time, even though they're using the rules there, I have a hard time calling Atlanta a super speedway. I really do.
Yeah. It's hard to look at it as a super speedway being a mile-and-a-half.
Yeah, I mean, you're
very hard.
You're just using the rules there. That doesn't necessarily make it a super speedway track.
You would have to, if whatever genius comes up with this idea, if they have their way, you've now got to add 6 degrees of banking at least to Kansas.
Don't do this, people. Don't do this.
No. Stop.
On behalf of anybody who has ever watched a race there, don't do it.
Get there fast to Right Way Title Pond, 2 locations in Anniston and Munford.
4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back in. Appreciate you joining us halfway through this particular show. A little bit past, actually. We went overtime into halftime. But you know what? It was worth it. We appreciate you joining us, whether it's on 95.1 The Mountain or on CRN Live on YouTube. Did I not hit that button? That's on me. I apologize. We thank you for joining us. Again, CRN Live on YouTube. If you have not had the opportunity to get on there and subscribe, we would appreciate it if you do. We appreciate that a lot. We've got a couple of new people that have come on board. We appreciate them as well. So thank you very much for joining us. And if you're listening to us on the radio and you're a regular listener, we certainly appreciate you being a part of the show as well. Yesterday, as we turn our attention over to Formula One, had a meeting that took place yesterday as we air live on Saturday mornings. If you're watching this YouTube channel a little bit later on, yeah, it happened on Friday. It was a conference call, really, via the head honchos of Formula One and the FIA, talking to the head honchos of each different engine maker to talk about a little bit more, anyway, the prospect of trying to maybe bring back that V10 engine that we were talking about last week here on the show, okay? And this, I think it would be a popular thing based upon what little I've heard so far. A lot of people are saying that they would like this idea. The FIA admitted they've already been investigating a potential return to those engines, maybe even as early as the 2028 or 2029 years. And it was all because of a comment that FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem said earlier this year about the fact that he felt like it could happen with the introduction of synthetic fuels and such. Engine manufacturer representatives, which, by the way, included Audi CEO Gernot Dellner and GM President Mark Reuss, they pressed for a little bit more caution. They don't want to make a hasty decision. And this part of it I understand. And this is kind of the same thing that is keeping some other car makers, I think, from joining a NASCAR. And I'll explain that. The potential cost of having to build a V10 engine, because nobody's currently building one for on-the-road use. So now you have the expense of creating a V10 engine specifically for the purpose of only going to race. Let's take you back not quite 20 years ago when Toyota said, hey, we're getting ready to get into NASCAR.
Right.
Think about what Toyota didn't have at that point in time. Toyota did not have a pushrod V8.
Nope.
And that's all that NASCAR runs.
Yep.
So they had to get into NASCAR, specifically go out and create an engine that they previously did not have at their expense. And it's only gotten more expensive to do it. Now, yeah, they all have the ability, okay, when you think about it. Every single manufacturer that's in there as an engine provider has the ability to create a V10. But you have to go through the process of getting the machinery and doing all the blueprints and blah, 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 blah. It's not an inexpensive venture.
Right.
So they said, we're interested, but at the same time, let's not get too hasty about it, basically.
Yeah.
So they also want to make sure that they know about the performance and the quality of the racing and the quality of the engine. FIA's only statement about the conference call was that all engine makers, quote, are committed to the 2026 regulations and look forward to the racing. But according to ESPN, some F1 insiders have been telling them that the idea of going back to V10 engines is gaining more and more support, as opposed to the Kansas Speedway thing, which is gaining more and more opposition. The V10 engine return is gaining more and more support in and around the F1 paddock, which is apparently also being noted in the conference call. So don't go thinking that returning to a V10 engine is off the table. It's just they want a little bit more time to be able to look at all aspects of it. Hopefully, I don't mind the V6 turbo era. I don't mind it. But heck, I miss the V8 sound. Much less the V10. I remember listening to the V10s. The V10s were, oof, those sounded good.
I prefer hearing a 12.
Well, sure. But, you take what you can get. And the truth of the matter is, you know, we hear turbo V6s in IndyCar every single year, and that's fine.
Looky what I found.
You know,
Okay.
come on, Formula One. Let's do this. The FIA gave a synopsis of the conference call that noted that all sides agreed to continue the talks about the possible return to the V10, what, if any, level of hybrid or electrification might be used to it, and ensured the use of synthetic fuels. That is a key to them. They want to ensure that they will be using synthetic fuels by that point in time. Plus, they want to make sure that any new regulations that come in, the policing would be in place and would be evenly spread out amongst all the teams. All of that surrounding the switchback to a V10.
I just found this diagram here.
Okay, what do you got?
I was looking for it, hoping to find it, and I found one.
Okay.
It was 2024. It was released. How much does an F1 car cost?
Oh, okay.
The 2024 cost cap, $135 million.
Was it 135? I thought it was a little higher. Okay.
It says 135. This is motorsport.com, the F1 branch of motorsport.com, which is much better than some.
That's true.
Shared this image of it. The 2024 cost cap, $135 million. All right. The brake discs and pads alone, $78,000.
See where we're starting to rack up here real quick?
Tires per set, $3,000.
Uh-huh. And they've got, what, 8 to 10 sets per race, I think?
Ish.
Somewhere in that area.
Front wing and nose cone.
Ooh.
Approximate cost, $141,500.
How is that all? Take
Yep.
a post-dated check?
Yeah.
Because it's going to have to be post-dated.
Yep.
Years for me.
We'll go here. Additional costs, $51,000.
Additional costs.
Chassis, approximate cost, $707,000
Yeah.
for the chassis.
And let's face it, it's not like, you know, IndyCar where Dallara builds all the chassis. These guys are building their own.
And last but not least, the engine.
Uh-huh. Here's your big one.
Approximate cost, $18.32 million. Why? Why are we spending $18 million on an engine when we have little old Earlmore up in Michigan that can get an engine that you can run for $45,000?
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's insane.
But now we're knowing why it costs $135 to $150 million to put a Formula One car out on the track.
Ridiculous.
Ouch. Something that we concentrated on during Crossed Flags, we talked about what is one of, certainly, if not the biggest rookie class that Formula One has ever had, not counting year number one. Certainly the biggest rookie class that we have in our memory, which is 6. 6 rookies coming in. And just a couple of years ago, as we noted on the podcast, we didn't even see a changeover.
Right.
Every single one of the 20 drivers from one year to the next remained right where they were. Now, all of a sudden, we got 6 rookies coming in. And they're making noise. 6 of the 20 seats filled with rookies. One of the more notable ones being Kimi Antonelli for Mercedes, who not only scored points in Japan, but also set the record for being the youngest race leader in F1 history. When he led the race for a couple of laps in Japan, he was the ripe old age of 18 years, 224 days. He led for a total of 10 laps, set the race's fastest lap, too, at 1 minute, 30.965 seconds. Nice run. We also mentioned one of the other rookies, Racing Bull's rookie Isaac Hadjar, scored his first career points. And you think about this. This is huge. Because this is the same guy that just 2 races before in the season opener in Australia spun on the formation lap and didn't even get to turn a lap under competition and got criticized by people, Helmut Marko, in his own organization for showing his emotions by crying while on his way back to the paddock. Now, a lot of people came to his support as opposed to Helmut Marko. But to go from that to the point where now just 2 races later you're scoring points, that's big. He rebounded with an 11th place finish in China, got 8th in Japan, scoring the points. He started 7th on the same row with Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton just got the better jump at the start, took the position away. Hadjar was able to hold on to 8th for the remainder of the race for the most part. Again, you get green flag pit stops and stuff like that. That changes things. Then there are the veterans, and we promised to get back to this as well. Some of the veterans with problems. We noted Yuki Tsunoda finished outside the points in his Red Bull debut, so not really that much different from Liam Lawson, who was removed after only 2 races to go down to Racing Bulls, while Tsunoda went up to Red Bull. Then you got Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz got fined 20,000 euros. Half of that got suspended, though, because he was late for the national anthem. He did inform race stewards that he was suffering a stomach issue. Read into that what you will. That fine, by the way, the equivalent of about $22,000 U.S. money, but it is usually about 60,000 euros. So why was it cut down? Well, race stewards noted that not only did Carlos Sainz and his team inform them ahead of time that he was suffering from such issues, but because of the severity of said issues, they took that into account and mitigated it by cutting it down to 2/3 and suspending half of it. Their statement read, quote, "The driver stated that just prior to the anthem, he experienced discomfort due to a stomach issue, which delayed his appearance on the grid. Notwithstanding the above, displaying respect for the national anthem is a high priority, and all parties need to consider everything in planning to be in position for the anthem." They did note that a doctor confirmed the issue, so at least he had a doctor's note.
If the doctor confirmed the problem that he was getting treatment for.
But you have to be there for the national anthem, don't you understand?
Guess we'll go old school backwoods Alabama deer hunting style. If you got the issue or something, have a bucket standing by the car just in case.
Rules are rules, man. Got to be there.
Oh, we got to stand there.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm about to puke, or I got to drop fire suit or whatever if you got a stomach issue, because stomach issues, we know how those go. Unfortunately.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yep.
People.
Rules are rules. Okay. Haas F1 got themselves a new reserve driver for the 2025 season. They announced that officially Ryo Hirakawa, who drove for Haas F1 in the postseason test session last December in Abu Dhabi, has switched officially from Alpine to Haas F1 to take on the role. 31-year-old Japanese native also races for Toyota Gazoo Racing in the World Endurance Challenge Series, but has open-wheel experience, including Super Formula and Super GT, in addition to several practice sessions that he has run for McLaren, Alpine, and Haas. Don't go crying, by the way, for Alpine. They still have 3 reserve drivers to choose from, including Franco Colapinto, who got a couple of starts late last year. Kush Maini and Paul Aaron are the other 2. As for Haas F1, this actually settles a problem that they had coming into the year. They didn't have an official reserve driver of their own as they entered this season. They chose to initially go with Ferrari, and they were going to use one of their development drivers if they happened to have a need for it. Now they don't have to worry about it. They've got their own. It is interesting that they haven't gone back to Pietro Fittipaldi, who had been their long-time reserve driver. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure what Pietro's doing right now. Haven't heard much from him.
Not sure.
I'll let you look that up while we talk about this next situation. Last week on the show, we talked about how Lionel Racing, NASCAR's official diecast collectibles partner, is adding a tariff tax or surcharge, if you will, onto all their sales, retroactive to March the 7th. Well, with the tariff situation continuing on, they asked Haas F1 and Haas factory team owner Gene Haas how it might be affecting him, his business, and his race teams. We'll get the update from Matt here, take a break, and we'll come back and talk about this because it's much more involved than the time that I've gotten this segment.
Yeah, he's involved in the IMSA Sports Car Series with Pratt Miller Motorsports.
Okay, so he is racing still.
Yep.
Good to know. Good grief. I don't know what's going on with this thing. One of these days, I'm going to actually figure out how to do this brake thing. You know, it's not like I'm a professional and do this for a living or something. Yeah, one of those deals. So anyway, what's going on in the White House? How is it affecting everything? And I know that a lot of these tariffs have kind of been suspended. Really, China's the main target of this whole thing. I'm not going to get deep into the political side of this. Whatever you think of the tariffs, if you like them, if you don't like them, whatever. That's not what I'm getting into. We obviously are a racing show. How does this affect the racing team? And how does it affect Gene Haas, who is an international businessman? We'll tell you about it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
We'll find out here in a moment. So back to this situation about how tariffs here in the United States might be affecting the race team, specifically Gene Haas got to talking about it. As far as the company side, Haas Automation, he deferred the question over to officials with the company itself, which is based in California. They responded with a statement that said that the company has, in response to the tariffs, eliminated overtime and have put a hiring freeze on while they study the potential and real-world impacts of these tariffs. Haas Automation has some 1,700 workers at their main plant in Oxnard, California, plus they have other locations around the United States, and the company believes that there's reason to be optimistic. The statement said, quote, while tariffs will have a significant impact on the Haas Automation business in the short term, they believe the Trump administration will be working on a solution to provide some relief. Again, it appears now that most of the countries that he announced what he called reciprocal tariffs on have kind of contacted him, and he's put a hold on most of them. China, on the other hand, is raising tariffs on us, and we raise tariffs on them, and they say, oh, yeah, well, we'll raise you. And then Trump goes, oh, yeah, I'll raise you. It's like playing poker. neither of them willing to blink at this point in time. So we'll have to see how it all goes.
Just waiting to hear the words, who goes all in next.
Yeah, exactly. As to the Haas F1 and Haas factory teams, NASCAR operations, the team's spokesperson kind of brushed off the tariff situation as any kind of a major factor. It's really not bothering NASCAR much. The only thing that I have to worry about is going down to Mexico and staying there. So that's not the biggest problem. Haas F1, on the other hand, released a statement that said, quote, "It's business as usual regarding the team. There's no change to our development plan, recruiting process, and other projects." And the spokesperson added, to clarify again, no impact to the team. And we talked about this several weeks ago, actually, as we led into the season. This is the first time since Haas F1 joined the Formula One grid back in 2016 that Gene Haas hasn't had to dip into his own checkbook or wallet to make up the budget gap for the team's needs. For the first time ever, Haas F1 is able to take their sponsorship money and the allotment money from their finish in the 2024 Constructors' Cup standings to cover all their operating costs for this year. So they're stating that the tariffs are not that much of a factor, if any at all, for them. That's good news. Let's see what else we can get ourselves into as I lose my place and my computer goes haywire. All right, here we go. McLaren has been really lately expanding out their racing portfolio. Obviously, they've been active in Formula One. This goes all the way back to 1966. Then they moved into Formula E. Then they moved into Indycar. Now they're ready to expand again and re-enter a series that they did once participate in, the World Endurance Championship Series. The race team claimed the overall win in the 1995 24 Hours Le Mans with their F1 GTR model, raced it again in 1997 and 1998 in the world-famous race. However, they've pretty much been out of the top category ever since. They did get back into the event in a lower division last year. They ran in the LMG T3 division. That's a sports car division. So they raced it last year, but in their statement announcing their return to the famed race in the top level, they said, quote, 1995, legendary Le Mans victory, Triple Crown glory, ready to make our mark on the World Endurance stage once again. Hypercar 2027 World Endurance Championship, with McLaren Racing CEO Zach Brown being quoted simply as, "We're back."
With Haas just a minute ago, the reason why Gene doesn't have any problems with running a F1 team of all things, because each little CNC, let's call it little. Each little CNC machine that he sells to a manufacturing company that gets one, $159,000 for one.
And he sells
a bunch
all around the world. He's a leader in that category. There's no doubt about it. How long before McLaren turns around and does really well in this? I mean, they're doing really well in pretty much every other racing series that they do, and they've got a history of doing well in the top division, if you will, of the World Endurance Challenge Series. They could come right out and...
Probably won't take long.
Yeah, 2027, that means they've got 2 years effectively before they get to the 2027 24 Hours Le Mans to work on this car. Yeah, I think they're going to be good. And they're just the latest car maker to announce their entry or re-entry into the World Endurance Challenge Championship. Ferrari came back just a couple of years ago, 2023. They won both Le Mans overall since then. Ford has announced they're coming back for 2027. Some version of a GT40? I don't know. I haven't heard whether or not they're bringing that back. Then you got Hyundai. Hyundai's taken their Genesis brand and announced they will have a hypercar entry ready to go in 2027 as well.
Let's build a wing off of the Hyundai plant and down the road right here, right down the road from here in Montgomery, and just do the World Endurance Challenge cars in Montgomery.
There you go. If things stand as they are right now, you've got 11 car companies announced for 2027 with hypercar entries. Okay, we'll see. This is interesting. We talked about Mohammed Ben Sulayem just a couple of moments ago because of his comments that were just kind of offhand earlier this year, but everybody, including us, picked up on it in the mention of a V10 return. Things seem to be crumbling underneath him, though. FIA's deputy president, Robert Reed, no, not the guy who played Mike Brady on the Brady Bunch. He's been dead a while. Robert Reed announced his resignation from that position effective immediately. He cited this, quote, a breakdown in standards for his reason to exit stage right. Reed has been the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem's right-hand man, since he was elected to that role of president in 2021, but over time said that his frustrations over the course of the direction of the FIA have gotten bad enough to where he just saw no other way to go but to quit. In his letter of resignation, which was made public, Reed, who is a former world rally champion himself, said that among his concerns were, quote, critical decisions. Wow. See if I can get my tongue working right here. Critical decisions being made without due process or proper consultation, and criticized a, quote, fundamental breakdown in governance standards. His statement concluded with these words, quote, my resignation is not about personalities. It is about principles. Motorsport deserves leadership that is accountable, transparent, and member-driven. I can no longer in good faith remain part of a system that does not reflect those values, unquote. So he says it's not about personalities, and then says motorsport deserves leadership that is accountable. That's funny. It looks like he's calling somebody out to me. Am I wrong?
Nope. He's not.
The FIA, to this point, and probably to their credit, has not commented. But it should be noted, if you missed it from us talking about it in the last couple of weeks, that Mohammed bin Sulayem, as president, his term is up this year, and the election happens in December. Mohammed bin Sulayem says he is running to repeat as president. But at this point in time, it's looking less and less likely that that's going to happen. Again, I'm looking ahead to something that I'm certainly well outside the arena of, but that's not a good sign.
Maybe I need to run against him.
I'll support you. I'd be more than happy to support you.
Somebody get me a yard sign up made. FIA president 2025.
Yep. Vote for Matt.
Yeah.
Let's turn to the other open wheel series, which is IndyCar. Much like any other sports car team going to the White House to celebrate a championship, Team Penske took time out this week, Wednesday to be specific, to bring an IndyCar, a Cup Series car, and an IMSA racer to the nation's capital to visit with the president, Donald Trump, and talk about the claiming of the 2023 and 2024 Cup Series titles for Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, the 2024 Indy 500 with Joseph Newgarden, and celebrate their 2025 Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona overall win. Others that happen to be in attendance, NASCAR's commissioner, Steve Phelps, I'm still getting used to that, and President Steve O'Donnell, along with Mark Miles, who's Penske Entertainment's CEO. Trump met with the Penske group privately in the Oval Office before headed outside to take pictures with everyone there and the race cars. Trump is an avowed motorsports fan. You might remember he attended the Daytona 500 earlier this year. He and the Beast were actually out in front of the field as they were starting to head towards the green flag in the start of the Daytona 500. He talked specifically with Blaney and Newgarden about the speed of their cars, mentioned that of all the things that he's done, he has yet to go to an Indy 500. Said, quote, I'll have to get there, maybe this year, with you, as he was talking with Roger Penske, the captain himself. He replied that the president has a, quote, open invitation, unquote.
I can see Marine One landing on the 15th hole in the infield of the Brickyard.
Sure.
You know. But why? Some of those other ones, honestly, and we know which ones I'm about to, probably can pick which ones I'm talking about here. They shouldn't even need to be there. That is recognition for team and driver, not for series officials.
Yeah, because whenever a team goes to celebrate World Series, Super Bowl, NBA, NHL,
we don't see
Stanley Cup.
We don't see Roger Goodell standing there with either the Eagles, the Chiefs, or the Patriots, or whoever wins it.
Yeah, we don't see the commissioner of Major League Baseball.
Rob Manfred's not there.
Yeah,
Adam Silver's not there.
Exactly.
It
is kind of interesting that they were there. I don't necessarily have a problem with them being there. I mean, Mark Miles is kind of Roger Penske's right-hand man. I kind of get why he was there. I'm not really 100% certain why NASCAR was there, but at the same time, this does fly a good flag for NASCAR. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, it does bring up the question. And it is funny to note that it was only the Team Penske guys, Miles and O'Donnell and Phelps, were not in the Oval Office. They were standing outside waiting for them to come back out to do pictures.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. And that's the way it should have been. I mean, you're celebrating the team. You're not celebrating the sport. But it led to another one of those fantastic clickbait headlines. And I talked about this yesterday on my other job.
Now Steve's turn.
Yeah. And the clickbait headline was, could Donald Trump screw up Kyle Larson's attempt at the double?
No.
I'm just going to break it down for you real quick. How long was Donald Trump at the Daytona 500?
Very short time.
He and the Beast went out onto the track, went, 3-4 laps out in
Something
front?
like that. Something like that, yeah.
Pulled the car down into the infield, took it off a pit road. He might have stayed after the green flag dropped 10 laps. And he was gone.
If that long, yeah.
If that long. And he was gone. Got himself into Air Force One, and they flew on down to Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, he might have watched the race on Air Force One and finished it at Mar-a-Lago. Heck, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't got a clue. But he was there, again, less than 10 laps of the Daytona 500. Let's presume.
I know why. The reason they're trying to do that clickbait.
Sure.
It's not going to work.
Let's presume for a moment. And no, I did not click on the article because I knew exactly what it was. It was a clickbait headline. Let's presume, just for a moment, that Donald Trump decides to stay for half of the Daytona 500, 100 laps. If he leaves at lap 100, still plenty of time. Still plenty of time. The concern that you have is that, as we have said, Kyle Larson will have to get out of the Indycar car, get shuttled over to a waiting helicopter, take the helicopter over to a private airport, jump on a private plane, fly to Charlotte.
You go to Indianapolis International.
Okay. Well, either way. Okay. Helicopter from track to airport, jump on a plane. This isn't going to interfere with what Air Force One is doing.
Which that may be from how they would shuttle from track to airport. That may be 10 minutes max.
Yeah,
because they'll go to the FBO side of Indianapolis International, which is on the north side of the airport. Helicopter will sit down right there in a close proximity to the plane. Jump off a helicopter, jump in the plane, and pilots have already got clearances for the plane to go. Plane's probably already fired up, ready. Shut the door, latch up, and go.
See ya. We're out of here.
Adios. We're here. We're gone. See ya.
And to your note, I don't think Marine One's going to be making the trip to Indianapolis. Truth be told, they'll take Air Force One to Indianapolis, and they'll shuttle the limos, and they will do a procession motorcade through Indianapolis to the track, where he'll probably take the Beast out onto Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Right. Yeah, because if I remember correctly, from the Indianapolis airport exits to where the exits are to go to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, maybe 3 at most. So say maximum, say 6 to 8 miles.
Yeah, this is a non-issue.
No.
This is a non-issue, and again, it goes back to clickbait headlines. Don't believe them. This is an interesting note. We talked about the fact that IndyCar and Dallara working on the new updated chassis that they hope is going to be in effect 2027, maybe 2028, depending on exactly how things go. Roger Penske is said to be considering ways of helping teams kind of defray the cost of that new chassis. Annual budgets, when we first started covering IndyCar, decade ago-ish? We're in the $5 to $7 million range. Some a little bit cheaper, some a little more expensive. It's what we get out of every team. Things have gone up, though, now, and generally it's in the $8 to $10 million range, and, well, it can be something of a challenge to the teams, and on top of that, you add the cost of a new chassis. Racer.com is reporting Roger Penske might be willing to take on the majority of that cost for those teams in need of help to get the new chassis. Penske and said team or teams might enter into a loan agreement, for example, to pay back Penske over time, possibly years if they need to, and to keep lower funded teams in the series. Penske Entertainment CEO Mark Miles said that the idea is not even fleshed out at this time. It's really more just a concept that's being debated in the halls of the company. Would likely be less of a burden than going through any kind of a financial institution for a loan, which would probably come at a higher interest rate than what Penske would charge. Teams that have commented are basically in wait and see mode. They want to see the details. Ed Carpenter Racing, for example, stated, yeah, we're in wait and see mode. It was interesting to note that Dale Coyne Racing said, yeah, I'd probably just go to a bank.
Yeah.
Dude, you might want to look at the interest rates first. I'm just saying. If Roger Penske is going to give you a better interest rate, I'd go with Roger Penske.
Yeah.
Got to look at what's best for your team, dude.
Yeah.
We'll talk about one more note in IndyCar here in a moment. Turn our attention to the final legal, if you will, challenge that NASCAR is facing as we talk about Dale Jr., who also came up with a pretty interesting note about a pretty fancy race coming up. We'll detail all that and give you a fantasy league update as well. All that in the final segment of CRN. That's next.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. Go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
The things that we talk about in the background.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else are we talking about here? Let's do one more thing with IndyCar here, where they announced that the doubleheader weekend at Iowa Speedway's got themselves a new title sponsor. Longtime sponsor, Midwestern grocery store chain Hy-Vee, backed out after last year. In its place now is another Iowa-based company, Sukup Manufacturing. Yes, I looked it up. That's how you pronounce it, despite the fact that it looks like it could be pronounced Suck-Up. It's Sukup Manufacturing. The company, which is a family-owned company, manufactures grain storage, drying, and handling equipment for local farmers all the way up to major food companies. Hy-Vee was instrumental in backing the big acts that did pre- and post-race concerts. Sukup said that they will do much the same, but instead of importing big-time acts, which does cost more, They're instead going to bring in some local and some up-and-coming artists in order to give them some publicity and save a little bit of money here. They want to be the title sponsors of the doubleheader weekend on a long-term basis. So good luck to them. Congratulations. All right. The third legal bit comes to the Xfinity series here, and we talked about this last week on the show where Dale Earnhardt Jr. got onto his Dale Jr. Download podcast, shed a little bit more light on this trademark clash between he and NFL quarterback Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. The dispute surrounds the stylized number 8 that Junior Motorsport had been using since, 2018?
Mm-hmm.
And when the team attempted to trademark that particular look, Lamar Jackson challenged it, said that it could cause confusion between him and his Era 8 brand, which was indeed established before the Junior Motorsports application. During, again, his most recent Dale Jr. Download podcast, Dale said, quote, "We learned that the Budweiser number 8 trademark is not going to be continued and renewed by Teresa. We were surprised by that because she kept one trademark. I haven't talked to Teresa. Don't know why it was their decision, but we saw an opportunity to pick up the number in that look and see if we could get the trademark. I learned on social media about the same time that everybody else did that Lamar was contesting our trademark application. He wasn't suing me. He was just contesting it. It was just part of the trademark process where if you believe somebody's applying for a trademark that might hurt your brand, you can oppose it. When I learned about it, I thought for sure it was over the Bud 8, the classic number 8. Upon learning the details of Jackson's challenge, Dale Jr. said, quote, "The next day, actually, we filed the paperwork to abandon the acquisition of the trademark for the Junior Motorsports number 8, the one that you can see on CRN Live right now. We got what we wanted," Dale Jr. said, "and down the road, I was not going to argue with Lamar over something that I didn't plan on using. I wasn't going to spend thousands of dollars with my lawyers to fight something that I didn't need."
When those two 8s don't even look remotely close.
I know. Here's the thing. I'm, in looking at what's on the shirts and that number 8, which again is the old stylized number 8, not the one they're using this year.
The 8s that are on that shirt look like the 8s you would see on a jersey.
Exactly.
Okay. Secondly, that 8's not even close.
No.
Thirdly, Lamar Jackson, if you're going to trademark an image of an 8, how about using trademark of the number 8 that is actually on the jersey of the Baltimore Ravens? How about that, buddy?
Yeah, what an idea. Speaking of Dale Jr., he might actually get into this race. Here's the thing.
If he's not, I'll be surprised.
I'd be shocked, too. Now, here's the thing about Dale Jr., not necessarily in the Xfinity series this year. Now, usually he does. Ever since he retired from full-time Cup Series racing, he has run at least one race annually for his own Junior Motorsports team in the Xfinity series. But he actually has not got one scheduled for this season at this time, admitted after his one race last year that he might not, or he might. He just said it just kind of depended on how he felt at the time. But he does have that famed Budweiser number 8 late model that he raced last December. I think that's what I got a picture of. No, it's not. I've got the title. Sorry, never mind. But we've seen it. We showed you a picture of it. They made a die-cast collectible out of it. He said he might just break it out over in the summer in something that is coming up in the Cars Tour named the Throwback Classic. The race, which the series wants to now become a centerpiece, a crown jewel race, and trust me, if it keeps up with this, it probably will turn out to be exactly that. Is set to be run August 2nd at Hickory Motor Speedway. It's in North Carolina, in case you're not sure exactly where it is. Flow Racing is said to cover the action. Why is this set to become a centerpiece race, you ask? Well, it marks a new record for a late model asphalt race. A $200,000 purse, and only the second ever late model asphalt race to pay $50,000 to win.
That's big.
The only race at this time to pay to start. If you crank the engine and you roll off, you'll get $2,500. Dale Jr. is a co-owner of the Cars Tour and said, quote, "Our goal is to always continue to grow the series by putting as many eyes on it as possible. Our partnership with Flow Sports allows us to do just that. The Throwback Classic at Hickory has always been a special event for the Cars Tour, but with this announcement, it is now the biggest pavement short track event of the year, period." there's a couple of tracks that might want to talk to you about that, but still, it certainly does throw its hat in the ring for it.
It's definitely, purse-wise, it's definitely larger than Snowball Derby.
All right, let's talk about the good side of it. We'll get back to the Snowball Derby situation in a minute. Let's talk about the good side of this. $50,000 to win.
For grassroots late model racing, that is massive.
And this is Cars Tour specifically, right?
Yes.
So
Cars Tour late model stock.
How many drivers could bring a car in for a one-off entry in this? Or are there going to be rules that state that you had to have been a member?
I'm sure there will.
You know?
I'm sure there will something be put in place for the series regulars.
Okay.
I'm sure it would be, but I won't be totally shocked to see if any one-offs show up to try to win the race.
Sure. And the reason I ask that is because you and I have been to the Snowball Derby, which is a very prestigious, quote-unquote,
Huge.
off-season race. I mean, hundreds
Huge.
of cars come from all around the country and from other countries, Canada and Mexico, to come and participate in the Snowball Derby because it is that prestigious of a race that everybody wants to win the Snowball Derby. So this brings up the question, does this now up the ante for the Snowball to go, we need to figure out maybe how to up our purse?
If you up the purse for the Snowball Derby to try to get even more cars down there, you're going to have pit parking that goes all the way to Mobile.
That's true.
It's hard to say if any NASCAR driver. There may be some truck series because truck series does not run on that weekend that I can see.
Yeah, I was
But Cup,
kind of trying to figure
Cup
out
and
what.
Xfinity is in Iowa. That would be
That's a haul.
that would be a logistical problem.
That is a haul.
And
And they're going to do this on Saturday night the 2nd.
Yep. Yeah, trucks are off that weekend, so you could see somebody of the likes of showing up. Probably, I don't know, Ty Majeski, Luke Fenhouse, Caden Honeycutt, Bailey Curry may show up. Who knows, to run the one off because Caden is a regular visitor to the Cars Tour Series.
I was trying to think of the logistically Sunday. You could technically do it if you're a Cup Series driver because you fly overnight, right? Get in there early in the morning on Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Amongst the Cup drivers, who do you think is I'm not going to say probability. I'll say possibility. Who do you think is a possibility out of the Cup Series to go and try this?
Let me see.
Because Kyle Larson's really more dirt track when he's not running Cup Series.
Kyle wouldn't. First one that comes to mind to me is Josh Berry.
Yeah, because that's where that's how
where
he
he
came
cut-
up through
that's
junior
where he cut his
motorsports.
teeth.
Yeah.
That's the first one that comes to mind. Boy. Considering they've done stuff like this before, I would not be overly shocked if Kevin Harvick got in it.
Oh no, I can see that. I mean, heck, he's got partial ownership in it anyway.
I wouldn't be shocked to see him in it.
There'll be names you'll recognize. There's no doubt. There will be names you'll
There'll
recognize.
be some that show up,
Yeah.
but the first one that comes to mind would be Josh Berry on YouTube Live. Mark says Chase Elliott, possibly. But
Potentially.
Chase, I think, runs more pros and supers than late model stock.
Okay. It'll be interesting to find out. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll keep our ears to the ground and see what happens. Formula E only one announcement, but it is for the future of the series. Lola Cars, in their second year in Formula E, have confirmed they're going to stick with the all-electric racing series at least through Generation 4. They're in Gen 3 right now. They noted they've come to terms on an extension of their deal with Yamaha Motor Company, noting that the two companies are working on the new battery tech that will come into effect in the series for the 2026-2027 season, the start of Gen 4. So with that announcement, Formula E confirms that Lola is joining Nissan, Jaguar, Porsche, and Maserati. These are the teams that have confirmed they will be with the series as they move on into Generation 4. IHRA, NHRA news. We'll start off with the IHRA as they continue to expand out. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how they had entered into agreements to purchase 7 different tracks They're finalizing them now. The latest to be finalized is the purchase of National Trail Raceway in suburban Columbus, Ohio. It's now complete, and the track has done a thorough refresh. The track, which opened in 1964, is a quarter-mile concrete drag strip, just underwent a fresh grounding of the surface to ensure it's got a proper racing surface. The bleachers have been upgraded for the fans, the concession stands upgraded and have new offerings, and they've got a new National Trail Raceway Pro Shop for official merchandise. Jay Livingston, who's staying on as the track's general manager under the now new ownership, said this, quote, "The IHRA is great. I think the IHRA's owner, Daryl Cuddle, is taking it to the glory days, making it bigger and better than ever. We've already had a number of racers reach out to us. They've gone out and looked at the IHRA team finals that were held at Quaker City Motorsports Park. They're excited about that, and they're really excited about the IHRA World Finals in Alabama, paying $25,000 to win. We talked a little bit about that schedule not that long ago. So this ought to be interesting. Again, we're keeping an eye on the IHRA because they've started to step it up. We haven't been keeping up with the results yet because we're not seeing the same kind of division setup, if you will, that we're seeing out of the very top level of the NHRA that we keep you up with. But once we do and get that settled in, we'll start to follow that.
Get me nitro cars to Alabama.
Come on, man. Come on. Speaking of nitro cars, Ron Capps announced the looming expansion of his NHRA operation to become a two-car team for 2026. Noted he has brought in rising star Maddie Gordon in. She's going to take on the Top Fuel entry for Ron Capps Motorsports next year. Maddie Gordon's a third-generation drag racer, been both a crew member and a driver for her own family's Top Alcohol entry. Remember, that was what Tony Stewart ran a couple of years ago. She'll be on hand to warm up Capps' funny car entry this weekend at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, so that'll be her first chance to kind of sit in a nitro car and get a feel for it, at least on startup. The crew chief and the sponsors for the 21, yeah, she's only 21. For the 21-year-old's Top Fuel entry will be announced soon, but Capps' longtime sponsor, Napa, is expected to be one of them. They have announced a commitment to seeing more women in racing and supporting that. She's made her mark. She was the 100th woman to win a national event in her family's Top Alcohol ride, has claimed 3 wins in all, and finished second in the final points just last year. She insists that while she will be around Ron Capps Motorsports throughout the 2025 season, she stated her main priority is to do what she missed out on last year. She wants to win the Top Alcohol title. So to that end, she said, I may warm up occasionally an RCM entry, but she's not going to make a single pass in either a funny car or a Top Fuel dragster through the remainder of the 2025 season. Noting that she does not yet have her Top Fuel license, she says once the 2025 season is done, then getting her Top Fuel license will be her top priority so she can debut in 2026. 21 years old and getting a Top Fuel ride.
I guarantee you in some shape, form, or fashion, that license process has started because he wouldn't have signed her if it hadn't have, in my opinion.
If he didn't think that she had a really good shot of getting it like that.
Yeah.
I would agree. 21 years old.
There needs to be. I'm going to say this before we get ready to close. There needs to be, from the female racer aspect, there needs to be a lot more with this mentality that they've got in drag racing, because female drag racers have way more success than the oval track racers do.
I'd agree.
Not discrediting their ability. The success level is so much different.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I mean, from Leah Pruitt and Brittany Force all the way down to a driver like a Maddie Gordon.
Pruitt, Force, Enders, Zetterstrom,
Sampay,
Angie Smith.
Yeah.
Now down to her. They have way more success.
Yeah. And
instead of worrying about being hired by a team because of a influencer.
Yeah. And if you think about it, we're talking about these ladies. Those names that you mentioned off are Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle. Maddie Gordon, as we mentioned, is Top Fuel or Top Alcohol, set to go to Top Fuel Nitro.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. And all of them have wins. A couple of them have championships. Erica Enders is a multiple-time champion in Pro Stock Car.
Sampay and Enders.
You know, think about it. It's yeah, they do.
Yep.
Lightning reaction times. Gosh, you got to give it to them. Good luck to her. I hope everything works out. Let's take a quick look what's going on in the world of the Fantasy League?
Darlington results. Old Boom Slick was the winner. That Stuart Haas guy was second. Junebug third. Look at John Myers coming in fourth.
Come on, John.
Chase in fifth. I was sixth. Thank you, Kyle Larson. Fire Shift was seventh. Staceman is eighth. So the overall standings right now: Junebug leading, Steve's in second, Boom Slick third. I'm in fourth. Chase is fifth. Fire Chef sixth. Staceman seventh. John Myers in eighth.
There you go. But John coming on strong. Keep it up, brother. All right. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate everybody on CRN Live with all the great chats. We appreciate it. It's been a great time. Looking forward to Talladega in a couple of weeks, but we will be back next week. We've got podcasts from Cross Flags coming up, and we will be back next Saturday morning. Then we've got a 2-week break. Sorry. Got to do it. Schedules at Talladega, and Barber just won't allow me to do the show. Guys, be careful. Have a great week. Enjoy the weather as you can. We'll talk to you with Cross Flags this week and next weekend right here with another big show edition. Y'all have a fantastic time. Enjoy all the racing. Plenty of it this week. And let me know, by the way, if you can actually find on anything other than the Roku channel the Formula E race, because I don't know where to find it.
Here's what I think we'll do, real quick. Here's what I think we'll do.
Okay.
Whomever wins the Fantasy League title
Okay.
end of the year,
Yeah.
minus myself and Steve. If one of us wins
That's true. We're not eligible.
It will go to place number 2.
Okay.
Hoodie and a hat.
Hoodie and a hat. There you go. We'll get sizes and all that stuff later. Y'all have a great week. Again, enjoy the racing if you can find it. We'll talk to you Tuesday, Wednesday, and then next
This has
Saturday.
been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.